thanks for being here with us. And I could not let the chance of having you here in Portugal and not doing a talk with you. And I, I, I name it "Where Are You Now, John Malkovich?" In a way, after all you have done in your career, what now moves you to in the work to do?
I mean, a number of things, as you know, because you produced a movie of one of them. Over the last probably 15 years, I've done a lot of collaborations with musicians, mostly almost all classical musicians, and I've found that incredibly educational and moving, fulfilling, interesting. I started that probably in about 2007 or 8, along with carrying on directing on stage or acting on the stage or in the cinema or in series. I've been doing that for a long time, and that's something I have really loved doing. Some pieces are probably better than others, such as Life, but that's something that I've really loved in these past years. I did fashion for quite some time, and I enjoyed that, although I'm not very good at business, and it's not even that I'm not interested; it's that I'm not very good at it. And of course, I still enjoy doing plays, doing movies, and I'm have been touring with a lot of different pieces in classical music. Of course, you knew the Casanova piece and produced the movie here, which we shot here at San Carlos in Lisbon. But those are the things that have mostly kept me going, and some of the pieces are things that I've developed with colleagues or adapted from literature, and that's something I've really enjoyed over these past years.
But these pieces that you are talking mostly in you choose the text, you and the music. You choose the music as well, or it's always with music mostly. No, all
Yeah,
the
they're
pieces are
not always. I did do a play in Latvia, and I didn't do the text. I cut a lot of the text because the original was in French, and with my colleagues, I was the only one who spoke sort of much French. So this play I ended up doing in Riga in Latvia with my longtime colleague Ingeborga Dapkūnaitė, a Lithuanian actress who I've worked with for many, many years. And we toured that, but for instance, the piece we did last night, that's with another colleague, Anastasia Tarankova, who's here. We've worked on 2 pieces together. It was originally developed with another pianist, and Anastasia and I started collaborating in 2016, and then we developed this new piece called the infamous Ramirez Hoffman together, really. So, of course, she chose the vast majority of the music, or proposed the vast majority of the music, but I also proposed some, and that's part of the great process of learning, you know, I've been working in that field with musicians now, as I said, for around 15 years, but this had 10 pieces I'd never heard of or never heard of the composer. Most especially in this piece, it's the Russian composer who's still alive, Desyatnikov. He has several of his compositions in this. But we really collaborate because you can have music and text at war, because text will always lose to music, because music goes into your bones. Text can't do that. So it's always very collaborative with all the colleagues I have in that field. Complicated because some music, and probably especially classical music, is so powerful that you have to kind of slip and slide around it.
But now going a little bit back before going from all the films and all the directors you work with, there are some that you sometimes you have pleasure to see them back, or mostly there are actors that you cannot see what they do.
Yeah.
But I think you are different. You are someone that likes sometimes to see the films that you are involved in.
I think, like a number of actors, if I'm in a film and say I'm this young woman, I kind of watch it like that. Look at everybody else, but I'm also not phobic about it, meaning I can watch it, but if the director doesn't want me to be a part of it or doesn't want my input, that's totally fine. Chances are then I probably won't see it because I'm someone, I like the process of work. I don't control the result, so I can't care about it. And when I say care, that's maybe too harsh a word, but I'm not part of that process, generally. That's what directors do. And I understand that, but because I come really from the theater, that's not the process of theater. You're constantly at work on it. It's a living organism, and a film isn't. It's a plastic thing. It's done. And, you know, I could see, for instance, a director I loved and you loved, Raul Ruiz. I could say, look at Klimt, which I did with Raul. I can remember when I saw it in ADR, in post-synchro, in looping, which is when you've done a film, they may have to replace some dialogue or add some dialogue, or an airplane flew over, or the camera made noise, or what have you. When I saw it, meaning you just see little tiny bits, you maybe see 3-4 minutes of the film, or 5, not much more than that. When I saw it, I remember getting called by my producing partner. I was still producing then, and Leanne, and she said, "Oh, you were there looping. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to bother you." I said, "No, I'm done. I did it. I'm back walking to the theater." And she said, "How was it?" And I said, "Well, I think if what I saw as representative, I think it might be the best thing I was ever involved in, if that's representative. When I saw the film, I didn't think that, not because I didn't think Raoul is brilliant, and maybe it's me who misjudged the film, or etc. There were just so many things loving Raoul that I wish I would have been able to say something and to know. For instance, I would have had a very cool score, a very modernist, you know, not Satie, but something in cool colors, not something kind of 19th century. And these are not sort of criticisms, they're responses to something, but you know, you rarely have that relationship where the director might rely on your point of view or even value it. And I don't expect them to value it. They can value whatever they want, but there are not many directors, in my experience, who really value your input. So that's very different to theater, and of course there were directors for sure who I think did value my input, and others not so much, you know. And so such is life, nothing you can do about it.
But and why you only direct one movie? Why you not?
Well, you know, it's funny. I produced a lot of films with my very fine producing partners, and you knew the story of Dancer Upstairs and the history of it. You know, essentially, when I did Dancer Upstairs, I wanted an actor that people really didn't know, I mean, most especially in America, but really not very known in Europe. And he was way too young for it, although I think he did it beautifully. And it ended up not mattering much. But for 8 years, I couldn't get it financed really because nobody wanted Javier Bardem. And, you know, that's okay. But why would that change my mind? It won't be changed. That's who I thought was critical to the film. And there's nothing I didn't like about directing or the process. I like editing, I like directing, I'm like mixing, scoring, you know. 2 of the pieces in last night's show are actually from our compositions of Alberto Iglesias, the Spanish composer who composed the score for Dancer Upstairs. But there was one other film I wanted to do, but the novelist who'd written the novel, we produced a film called Perks of Being a Wallflower. And I did want to direct that, but the writer wanted to direct it and did. It's rare that I read a script that I say, I wish I was directing this, which that almost never happens. And then that means, like with Dancer Upstairs, I have to develop it myself. But you know this better than anybody alive. The whole nonsense of getting a film made is just too much nonsense for me. I'm a very practical person. I'm not hypothetical. So in other words, you know of a friend of ours who's passed away, who I won't mention his name, but who always talked about making a film, always. And he never made one. And he was bright, and he was talented, and he sometimes had great ideas, and he talked about them as if they had been made.
Right.
And they weren't.
For him, they were made in his head.
They were made in his head. But you see, I can't, if I want to do a play, then I'll call someone in Riga or Moscow or Paris or New York and say, I want to do this play, here's the script. They say probably the next day, no, we don't like you, or yes, we like this script, but we don't think you're the director for it. Or they say, yeah, let's do it. When do you want to do it? Mid-April of next year? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, bye. Bye. That's it. Movies, you go around meeting people who used to, quote, be in world sales or, quote, distribute films or what have you. I mean, you've done this your whole life. I can't believe you're still alive, actually. Who tell you this actress's films don't work. And you go, but she's an actress. She's not, she didn't direct it. She didn't produce it. She didn't write it.
Not responsible.
No. Or who's Javier Bardem? I mean, it kind of goes back to that. And my simple answer is he's a wonderful actor who I would like to play this part. It's really simple. It's not kind of argumentative, or it's just, and I got sick of those conversations, you know. And I can do it. To me, the form, say, of the piece we did here last night, that form to me is unlimited and simple. Movies are neither. They're limited and they're not simple. And you kind of did it, the one with João Montes. I don't know if you remember this, but Paolo produced a film. This was 25 years ago, probably, I don't know.
More.
The one, he produced a film where the director decided, after he had shot the film and was editing film, that he didn't really like the actors in the film. And which is very valid. I think I can easily see that happening. So he just, and correct me if I misremember the story, so he just showed the film
On
black negative of the film with their voices, who he didn't mind their voices. He didn't.
It was not really like that, but he's a good Brackener.
And then he just did some drawings on the negative occasionally, right? And I saw Paolo just immediately after the press conference at the Carlton in Cannes, and he was still just. He'd gone to defend the film, and he was still so angry. And of course, the story made me laugh. It's like, well, it is kind of an original idea to just show the negative at the Cannes Film Festival and hear voices. That's called radio. But On the other hand, I would also say that wasn't a limited film. So, but film is often so limited to real life, so-called, as if that even existed anymore, to real life, to real sets that really are movie theater or really are this or really are that. Whereas in theater, and it's partially, of course, because I grew up in theater, really. You know, theater is organic and ephemeral. You had to be there, really. And there are people who hate that, and a lot of them love film because it's always there, and there is a recorded memory of it. But I grew up in a métier that has no recorded memory, really. I mean, there's might be a bad videotape or a bad, you know, sort of fading, not very good quality. But I grew to love that. I always compare it to surfing. You go out on your little board, you paddle out, you turn your back to the sun, and you wait for the wave. What is the wave? The wave, we're not the wave. I'm not the wave. Anastasia isn't the wave. The wave is created in the collision between the public and the material. And that's what creates a wave. And the wave will always exist, at least the possibility of it will always exist if it's good material. So directing another film, it's not that I would say no, it just got to be so much nonsense that I just lost interest, you know.
We are showing after the time regain after. Can you tell us some why you have done it and a small story with Raoul?
Sure. Of course. Well, you called me. I was in Paris writing. I shouldn't have said that. I was in Paris giving notes on a screenplay to a young director, which now will remain nameless. But and you called me, and I called you back because I was in a meeting with him, and you said, "Okay, I want you to do this film. It's based on the Proust novel Le Temps Retrouvé, Time Regained, and it's going to be directed by Raoul Ruiz, and it's obviously a French film, and you're going to play the Baron Charlus, a very famous character in French literature, and the film is in French." And I said to you, "Oh, okay, Paolo, but in all that, where's the good news?" And we did it, and I had 3 different French coaches, which I did at least 5 or 6 hours a day before they had to go into mental institutions, or I gave them cancer or whatever. But that was really an experience which really changed my life, because you already had, because I'd already worked with Manuel, and but it really changed my life because Raoul was such a huge influence on me. I'll always remember that I asked Raoul about a scene. It was really just asking him. It wasn't clear from the script. I didn't speak French, so what would I know? It wasn't clear from the script if I was in a scene or not in a scene. That's my only question. I never ask directors questions. They're busy. I don't want to bother them. If there's something they don't like or they think I don't get, they can tell me. I'm perfectly happy when they do, obviously. But I'm not big on bothering them with silly questions. Everybody was speaking a language I didn't speak at the time, talking very fast. I really didn't understand anything. I just wanted to know, am I here in this chair? Or am I under the chair, or am I outside? Am I not even in Lisbon? If I'm here, I better sit down. And Raoul responded with a 30-minute monologue about why plane trees, platans, lose their bark in June. And I just thought, I love this guy. It's just unbelievable. As you know, he simply refused to answer any direct question about anything. So we went on to make 2 or 3 other films, and usually the night before I'd prepare a little list of questions, which I had no interest in asking and no curiosity about, just to see what he'd say. I mean, and it was always things you just go, what? What? He was fantastic. It was very funny because I went to, Raoul passed away some years ago, and when I did a piece with some Viennese colleagues in Santiago de Chile, which weirdly enough is where the infamous Ramirez Hoffman was born. I went to Raoul's gravesite, to the tomb. It was pretty surprising because when I asked them at the office of the cemetery, they were like, "Who? No." But anyway, we finally found it, and what was really strange is we walked through this double row of platan trees to get to the grave, and it really made me think so hard of him, as did Ramirez Hoffman, which, if when we do it again, ever we'll see, Raoul had a great quote. His wife Valeria sent me the book a couple of months ago, and it has a great quote, which is, if you are very badly behaved in this life, in the next life you'll come back as a Chilean. And Raoul being Chilean, which I thought was so funny and so much like Raoul, who was just a spectacular person.
Any question now?
It's a pleasure to be here. If I understand right, you've been talking a lot about form. You've been talking about what you're interested in now, the simplicity of the music and the unlimitedness of the music and what you do, as opposed to film. I'm interested in what are the issues, the content, and the topics that you find interesting, or is that something that comes to you as people propose issues to you, or are you also looking out for specific things? Thank you.
That's a very interesting question. I'll try to answer it. I mean, I think we're always looking out, but we don't really much control what takes our attention. For instance, this piece, say, of Bolaño's, I know his work very, very well and love a lot of it. I don't know why it made me think this book called Nazi Literature in the Americas, which is essentially fake obituaries of fake Nazis with bizarre and absurd literary obsessions. I don't know why it attracted me. Really, I'm not someone terribly interested in Nazis, real or imagined. But I don't search to put forth a particular ideology or cause. I'm more interested in people and maybe why they do what they do, maybe why they think what they think, and why they feel what they feel. So I don't have a kind of sort of manifesto. Harold Pinter wrote, I thought, a great article many, many years ago. It's in a book of essays called Writing for Myself, which wasn't at all, I think, egotistical, in fact, at all. It was just, it's a form of self-expression. And I guess that's what I search for. Can I express myself in this material?
As we can say, in sociology, cinema is a set of a whole partial systems, which means it's a set of systems of organizing people in space and time. As for instance, the most easy one to understand is a schedule for the trains, for instance, is a partial system. An agenda, it's also okay. So we can say that cinema is a whole set of partial systems. I would like to know, you as a director, which is the most one that you prefer? Which is the partial system, if you have understood what I told, which is the most important role that you find when you are a director? What do you prefer doing? That's what I want to tell.
What do I prefer doing
when you are a director? Yes.
Yeah, in my field, sort of.
Yes.
Probably directing in the theater, if it's good. And if it's not good, it's the worst job you could ever have. It's a kind of torture. I like acting in movies because of the kind of discipline and minutia of the system, weirdly. Theater is almost the opposite of that. I mean, of course, there's discipline and minutia and details, but as restricted as the camera is the theater is the opposite. It's kind of unrestricted. Yeah, so I like both of those things, though, weirdly enough. I like the smallness of the movies, a great camera operator who I worked with, got to work with on a couple of films, Les Liaisons Dangereuses, and one called The Shadow of a Vampire, Mike Fox. He told me something when we were shooting Liaison. I wanted to do some action and wanted him to follow it. That's all. And he said, he looked at it, and he looked at it on the camera, and he goes, "Johnny, you know, if it's not in frame, it doesn't exist." And, you know, that made me so angry. And I was often super angry at him. Unfortunately, he was never wrong, actually. And that's, he in a certain way, and Stephen Frears, who directed it, they're two of the people, and some of the other camera people from a film called The Killing Fields, which is the first film I was ever in. They gave me love of cinema. I didn't really love it before or when I started doing it, because they made me concentrate on that thing, just the frame. What is the frame? And so I'm a little bit bipolar in that way. Almost that both, yeah, the two polarities are what I like, weirdly. So I can't ever really say my favorite thing, because it also depends on the particular experience. You know?
I was wondering, you have done such a lot of things and so many different things. Do you look at those things as a part of a learning process where you put everything together, or do you separate them into different areas and different genres? How do you look at that?
I lack, I really lack introspection. So I'm not someone that looks back at my career, so-called, or my kind of body of work, so-called. I always go forward. And in a situation like this, I reflect on some of my experiences and wonderful colleagues and things I've learned, etc. But generally, I don't look back much. Having said that, I think everything you do is a learning experience. It has to be. I just couldn't do it otherwise. So if I design a fabric, I better learn something. I mean, otherwise life would just be terrible, I think. You do all these things and you don't learn anything. And it's not that learning something helps you be better next time. That's actually not true. It's not that learning makes you a great person. Learning fills your days and occupies your mind and enriches your mind and your interactions with others, your colleagues, the world around you, etc. So it's its own reward. So that's really how I view it. It's all, if it's self-expression, I'm for it. Mine and my colleagues and anybody else's who wants to express themselves, great. And I have learned to be to defend that right. That's a bit strong for what I mean, but to say, yes, this is my expression of this. I understand other people may express themselves 10 times more well than I do. That's great too. but I've learned to say, yeah, this is how I look at it, and I think that's a lesson we can never stop learning, really. So.
Okay, we have now to go to see the movie. Thank you, John.